What's going on, everyone? So, Jeremy Sochan is kind of an interesting player on the Spurs, right? I mean, outside of the Dennis Rodman hair and all that stuff. And, you look at Spurs fans, they're kind of mixed on him, right? A lot of Spurs fans really love him and think he is a staple and a guy that you just cannot get rid of or replace on the Spurs, right? Get some Spurs fans that think he's awful and needs to be on the first bus out of here. But Jeremy Sochan is a very, again, interesting type player because he is one of those very versatile guys, right? He is a guy that, you saw them kind of try to test the point Sochan last season, and it just didn't really work out the way that they had hoped. But he is, again, a guy that can just do so much on the basketball court. Now, look, he isn't without his flaws. He isn't without his ailments, right? Particularly shooting the basketball. This isn't a guy that's just, absolute money from three-point range. I mean, this is a guy that for his career is 20, I'll even be nice and round up, 29% from three-point range. Last year you saw him a hair under 31% on 3.1 attempts, but his rookie year, he was 20, I'll again be nice, 25% from three, but did take a 5% jump, especially for taking an extra, basically attempt per game. So hopefully that's the beginning of the progress and the growth as a player. Still only 21 years old, so he's incredibly young, incredibly has plenty of upside and potential as a player. And again, he's that pop kind of guy. Right? The hustle guy comes in, brings energy, gives you 110% game in and game out. He's very versatile, can do a little bit of everything, make plays on the court, he rebounds and hustles, right? Get some buckets here and there, right? You kind of need to set him up, but he's a guy that can put the ball on the deck. He kind of be that like almost Draymond-esque type player for the Spurs, as well as defend multiple positions, right? Gets after it on the defensive side. Right, that's at least one thing he can kind of hang his hat on. He still, again, has his moments of lapse, right? He at times is not very disciplined, but when he's locked in, engaged, and focused on the defensive side, he can really get after it, right? Because he's big, he's long, he's lengthy, he moves well laterally, right? So he can kind of stay in front of guys, do his own, right? He kind of reminds me of a former Spur that many of you may be familiar with, in like a Boris Diaw, right? Like, you look at Boris Diaw, he was that guy that just, again, did a little bit of everything, right? Now, Boris Diaw was actually pretty good shooting the three ball, but they have a lot of similarities, right? Both 6'8", both former Spurs, right? Boris Diaw was kind of that do-everything glue guy for the Spurs. Right, he was the guy that went and got you 8 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists, got you steal and a block, and at times Pop ran the offense through, and he could knock down the open three, and he could do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that. Right, like that's kind of what I see Jeremy Sochan being. Right, I see him being kind of the Boris Diaw of this version of the Spurs. Right, little Boris, little Draymond, right? Where, you can at times run your offense through him. At times, you're looking for him to just kind of be the defensive assignment, right? Like, hey, see that guy over there? We need you to shut him down, right? There are some questions about, him slotted alongside Victor, right? It was a little clunky, a little awkward at times. But again, he's 21 years old, right? There's still plenty of room, plenty of growth, plenty of upside for Sochan, right? He's got to work on his three-point shot, right? If he becomes one of those guys that just never really gets there from three, and I'm not saying he has to be, 40% or anything like that, but he's got to at least be respectable. He's got to at least be league average. Because the problem is that he's just going to end up getting played off the court at times, right? Like, Draymond, a lot of people might look at and go, well, hey, Draymond Green was doing it, so why couldn't Jeremy Sochan do it, right? But one, you had Steph and Clay, and at points Kevin Durant, so that made things a lot easier, right? You kind of get away from that when you have the greatest shooters ever. But, I mean, you even look at last season, I mean, he shot 39.5% from three-point range, He had years in which, like 2015, 2016, he shot 39% on 3.2 attempts. Right? Don't get me wrong, he's had seasons where he was atrocious from three. He's had seasons where he was like 27%, 28%, but he's also had seasons in which he was very good. But he also was very much needed because of Steph and Clay and, like I said, KD and stuff, right? Where the Spurs, at least what we have right now on the team, don't have a Steph and a Clay. They have a Victor Wembanyama, right? Who is at times, yes, he can stretch the floor, knock down the open shot, but you want him with his size and his length and his versatility at the rim, at the basket. And if you have a guy like a Jeremy Sochan who just can't be there and he can't be out on the perimeter, he can't stretch the floor, and you can just kind of pack the paint on Victor, just makes things a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, right? Where, if Jeremy Sochan can kind of develop, again, even a serviceable three-point shot, not saying he has to be 40%, but can he be 37%, 38%? Right? League average is around 36%. So at worst, can he be around league average? Can he give you 36% a game? Where teams have to at least respect it. Teams have to at least go out and challenge it and contest it, right? He has the occasional game where he just gets hot and is absolute money, right? Like those type of things can go a really long way. Now look, again, Jeremy is he's a pop guy. Pop loves those kind of guys. The dirty work, do everything. And you need those guys. If you're going to win championships, and you need the kind of glue guy. You need the guy that's willing to do a little bit of everything. You need the guy that's willing to dive and get the loose ball. You need the guy that's willing to kind of, bang with the big fellas, take the contact, take the charge, right? Do again, the dirty work. You need those type of guys on your roster. And Jeremy is that guy. But he can also make plays. He can also rebound the basketball. He can get you, the occasional bucket here and there, right? And if he can continue to really hone that all-around game and be that all-around asset, I just think that he's going to have a ton of success with the Spurs because, again, Pop loves these kind of guys. The experiment last year didn't work, and that's fine, right? He's not Draymond, right? But I do think you can, on occasion, run your offense through him. Right? I do think on occasion, especially as he develops and kind of gets a better grasp and a better understanding on, positioning and reading defenses and all that stuff, I do think eventually he can kind of be better at that. Right? I do think that there is a version of Jeremy Sochan that he can kind of be your point forward. Right? You can run through him at times. Say Stephon Castle does develop into that guy, right? And does become that point guard that they're hoping he becomes, right? Well, when he goes to the bench, you can have Sochan out there and you can even run your offense through them. Or even at times where Castle, doesn't have to be on the ball. He can operate as like a cutter or something, and it just gives you a secondary playmaker out there. And just because it didn't really work last year for the Spurs in the way that they had hoped, again, he might just not be ready yet. And it's not like, like the team was kind of all over the place at times too, period. It wasn't just him, right? But he has a lot of growth and potential. And it's going to be very interesting to see, do they bring him off the bench? Does he start? Right? Like, where does he fit and slot in? Right? If I'm being honest right now, I don't like the idea of Jeremy alongside Victor, at least in the starting unit. I'm not saying you can't run it at times. I'm not saying you can't have him out there at times with him. But I'd like either A, you move Harrison Barnes to the floor, so you have that kind of floor spacing. Because look, Victor is just so impactful defensively around the rim. You camp him out on, basically the block, and he covers the entire rim area, right? From backboard to backboard, right? Like, you don't really need to have a bunch of guys down on the perimeter or down in the interior trying to protect the rim. No, you leave Victor by himself down there and you just let him just gobble up everything that is in his area. And to me, I just think the Spurs need that perimeter defense. right? So I do think that there is a scenario in which, like, like I said, maybe you're moving Harrison Barnes to the 4, and having like maybe Keldon Johnson or something at the 3. I just, again, I question how well right now, again, a lot of growth, a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity. But right now, I don't know how I like the pairing for these two. I mean, even Mamu, I think that there's an argument to kind of slot alongside a Victor Wembanyama at times. He actually had some really nice stretches for them during especially towards the end of the season, right? And he's kind of been inconsistent. 2022, 2023, he shot 30. I'll be nice, round up 35% on 3.5 attempts. If he can kind of be that, I actually kind of like the idea of Mamu slotted alongside. But outside of that, it's just like, who else do you really slot alongside there? Because like Bassie, like, he's probably worse shooting the 3 ball. So it's just like, who do you really put on him? Which is why I kind of like the idea of going and getting a Lauri Markkanen, right? Because you could have just slot him alongside Victor, and then there you go. There's your answer. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Are you in the camp of like, you need to keep Sochan? Are you in the camp where like, no, you need to get rid of this guy? You kind of in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me not. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.